Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. We take complex events, dense research, and surprising scientific facts, and we extract the absolute essentials to give you a complete picture of history's biggest moments.
And today we're taking a deep dive into an environmental catastrophe that really redefined public health legislation and our whole understanding of atmospheric danger. We're talking about the Great Smog of London, December 1952.
Right. We'll be looking at the sources that detail how this familiar thing, this London fog, suddenly turned into, well, one of history's deadliest man-made killers over just 5 days.
And to really get a handle on this, you have to understand how, well, normal pollution felt back then. It was just part of life.
Normalized, yeah. Let's start with something really vivid. There's this memory from a 10-year-old girl, Teresa P. Like thousands of kids, she walked to school in this thick gloom every morning.
And she had to wear a woolen scarf wrapped really tightly around her nose and mouth, a kind of makeshift filter,
And the chilling part, when she got to school, unwrapped it.
That scarf would have this distinct, greasy black stain right where she'd been breathing through it.
Every day.
Every single day. And that daily ritual, it really captures something crucial. The air Londoners breathed was visibly dirty, palpably dirty. But it was just accepted, the cost of living in the capital.
Exactly. London was the city of fog for centuries. It wasn't just put up with, it was almost romanticized, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You see it in literature all the time, the famous London in particular, the 𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐏.
Perfect atmospheric backdrop for Sherlock Holmes and stories like that.
And this cultural acceptance, it led to these sort of practical but ultimately temporary coping things. People bought special fog glasses, with side shields, just to stop their eyes stinging from the sulfuric haze.
But the root cause was never really tackled.
No, because the murky air was seen as, well, part of the city's identity.
And this normalization, this complacency, that created a critical vulnerability when the really lethal event hit.
Right. Officials, the public, they'd weathered dense fogs before, plenty of pea-soupers. So in '52, they just didn't grasp how severe this one was becoming, not immediately.
Our sources call this not just a failure of infrastructure, but a profound failure of imagination.
That's it, exactly. They couldn't perceive this familiar thing, this everyday fog, as an active mass murderer. It was a failure to connect the chronic, everyday pollution with its potential for acute disaster.
Even though the city had warning signs, this wasn't just fog water vapor, it was smog, smoke and fog.
Precisely. And London had a history of deadly air pollution events.
Going way back.
Well, think about 1873. A similar dense fog event pushed the death rate up by 40% above the average.
40%.
And much more recently, just a few years before, in 1948, another smog killed around 300 people.
So with that history, why the inaction? After '48, the Ministry of Health actually said, oh, an extensive investigation wasn't necessary.
Incredible, isn't it? London was basically treating a chronic, deadly condition with apathy, totally unprepared for the crisis that started brewing on December 4th, 1952.
They just dismissed the warnings as normal city life.
It's a classic case, really.
Yeah.
The system adapts to the problem instead of fixing it.
Okay, let's really unpack this. The Great Smog, it definitely wasn't a natural disaster, not an act of God, though some tried to frame it that way later.
No, not at all. The sources are clear. This was a catastrophe born from a lethal convergence. 3 interconnected, man-made factors hitting all at once.
What were they?
Specific weather conditions, post-war economic policy, and the city's infrastructure, both homes and industry, pumping out pollution.
Right, let's start with the first ingredient. The foundation was laid by, what, the weather?
A bitter cold snap. November and early December 1952 were freezing across southern England. Heavy snowfalls, too.
And London was a huge city, 8 million people. But crucially, most homes didn't have central heating.
Almost none did. It's hard for us to really picture that today. One survivor actually remembered having ice inside his bedroom windows.
Inside?
Wow.
Yeah.
So lighting a coal fire wasn't about being cozy. It was basic survival. Non-negotiable.
And that means?
A massive, sudden surge in coal burning. Smoke pouring out of hundreds of thousands of domestic chimneys all at the same time across the whole capital.
Okay, so massive demand for coal. That brings us to ingredient number 2.
Exactly. The price of recovery. Post-war Britain was struggling economically.
Yeah.
Huge war debts, a balance of payments crisis. They desperately needed foreign currency.
So they made a deal.
A devil's bargain, as it turned out.
Yeah.
Policy was to export Britain's best coal, the high-quality, low-sulfur anthracite, because it fetched the best price internationally. Anthracite burns cleaner, remember?
Okay, export the good stuff.
Yeah.
What did that leave for Londoners?
The devastating consequence was that Londoners and the city's big coal-fired power stations had to burn the cheapest, lowest-grade coal available domestically.
Which was
Cheap, high-sulfur bituminous coal, often called nutty slack, sometimes just muck.
nutty slack. And that cheap, dirty coal, that was the chemical key to the disaster.
Absolutely. The economic recovery plan, driven by debt, had basically created a massive public health time bomb without realizing it.
By exporting the clean coal, just keeping warm in London meant pumping sulfur straight into the air.
Precisely. An act of self-poisoning, in effect.
Okay, so cold weather, dirty coal, ingredient number 3.
The weather's perfect trap. Starting December 4th, this huge stationary high-pressure system, an anticyclone, parked itself right over the London basin.
High pressure pushes air down, right?
Exactly. Forces the air downwards. And as it compresses, it warms up slightly. This created a temperature inversion.
Explain that. Normally air gets colder higher up.
Right. Normally, warm air near the ground rises, carrying pollutants away. But with an inversion, you get a layer of warmer air sitting above the cooler ground-level air.
Acting like a lid.
Like impenetrable barrier. A member of Parliament famously described it as like putting a lid upon London, as upon a saucepan.
Wow. So this lid sealed the city.
Completely. It trapped all the smoke, all the exhaust, in this stagnant layer only about 100 to 200 meters deep. And crucially, the sources confirm. Almost no wind. Nothing to blow it away.
So London effectively became a giant chemical factory under a lid.
A literal chemical factory churning out lethal stuff. The scale of pollution was just immense.
Where was it all coming from?
Millions of those domestic chimneys burning the nutty slack, yes. But also steam trains, old diesel buses, and critically, the 5 big coal-fired power stations around the city.
Battersea, Bankside.
Fulham, Greenwich, Kingston upon Thames. They were designed to pump smoke high up, but the inversion layer trapped it all near the ground.
Do we have numbers? What kind of pollution levels are we talking about?
The data is staggering. Every single day into this sealed environment, London was pumping out 1,000 tons of smoke particles.
1,000 tons of soot.
2,000 tons of carbon dioxide, 140 tons of hydrochloric acid. And here's the crucial one, 370 tons of sulfur dioxide, 772 large.
370 tons of sulfur dioxide every day in that confined space.
The air must have felt physically heavy, thick. People described it as acrid, choking. It had a sharp, metallic sort of bite that made breathing painful.
And the smell.
Overwhelmingly rotten eggs. That's the hydrogen sulfide and other sulfur compounds. Really strong, especially early on.
But you said the SO2 was crucial. What happened to it? It didn't just stay as SO2 Hutter.
No, and this is where it gets really deadly. The inversion, the trapped moisture, the soot particles acting as catalysts. It created the perfect conditions for a rapid chemical transformation.
So this SO2 reacted.
It reacted quickly with oxygen and the water vapor in the damp, cold air. And the end product wasn't just dirty smoke. It was 800 tons of concentrated sulfuric acid, Twitch2SO42 rudders, as an aerosol.
Sulfuric acid in the air.
Microscopic corrosive acid droplets. That's what Londoners were breathing in. It attacked the delicate tissues of their lungs, their bronchial tubes.
Okay, let's put those pollution levels in context. Compare them to today's safety standards, the particulates.
Right, the particulate matter concentration peaked at 4,460 micrograms per cubic meter.
And the WHO guideline now, the 24-hour limit is...
Just 15.
Yeah.
15 micrograms per cubic meter.
So Londoners were breathing air with particulate levels nearly 300 times.
297 times, to be exact. The level considered safe today. It's almost unimaginable, like breathing finely ground grit.
And the sulfur dioxide, the chemical killer.
That peaked at 3,830 micrograms per cubic meter.
Which is?
95 times the current safe limit. 95 times. This level of acute chemical attack explains the horror that unfolded over the next 5 days. The city was being poisoned quickly and systematically.
Those 5 days, it sounds like a descent into hell. The very air people needed to live became lethal.
Utterly lethal. The city's collapse was swift and total.
Day 1, Friday, December 5th. It started deceptively.
Completely. The official Met Office forecast was boringly normal. Widespread fog, persisting all day. People went to work thinking, oh, just another pea-souper?
But it wasn't.
No. As the day went on, the fog got thicker, lower, and took on that really unnatural, greasy, yellow-black color.
This should have been the alarm bell moment.
It should have. We have that account from 16-year-old Irene Glaucius working in the city. Her dad rushed into her office, frantic.
What did he say?
Get your coat. The buses are stopping running. We're going home right now.
Yeah.
He knew something was very wrong.
And their journey home From Liverpool Street to Hackney.
A nightmare. Trekking through this oppressive, suffocating darkness that was just getting worse and worse. Irene remembered seeing a dark rim of grime literally settling on her skirt as they walked.
And the smell.
Violently acrid, she said. Sulfurous. It wasn't fog. It was a physical, toxic thing.
By the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, days 2 and 3, total paralysis.
Total paralysis. The sun was completely gone, blocked out. Visibility dropped to less than a meter. People genuinely reported not being able to see their own feet.
You couldn't see your own feet.
Or the front of your coat. Official reports from places like the Isle of Dogs just recorded visibility as nil, 0.
So transport just stopped.
Completely collapsed. Cars stalled, got abandoned. They just became these dark obstacles you couldn't see until you literally bumped into them.
On buses.
Almost entirely canceled. Drivers couldn't see the road, the curb, anything.
I read about conductors trying to guide them.
It's heartbreaking. Conductors had to get out and walk in front, holding flaming torches or paraffin flares, trying to edge the bus forward inch by inch through the gloom.
A desperate measure.
Utterly desperate.
Right.
River traffic on the Thames stopped dead. The only thing moving reliably was the underground, the tube. Stations were absolutely mobbed.
And the smog wasn't just outside.
No, it seeped indoors. It was so heavy, so particulate-laden, it came under doors, through keyholes, around window frames. You couldn't escape it.
So daily life just dissolved.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Cinemas, theaters, weekend staples, they had to close. The haze inside got so thick, audiences couldn't actually see the stage or the screen anymore.
Imagine that. Sitting in a theater, hearing actors, but seeing them vanish into this yellow fog.
All sporting events canceled, obviously. And the darkness provided cover.
For crime.
A sharp spike in crime, yes. Burglaries, street robberies, muggings. The smog provided perfect cover.
By day 4, Monday the 8th, the focus shifts from chaos to death.
The silent toll started to become horribly apparent. Hospitals were completely overwhelmed.
With what kind of cases mainly?
Acute respiratory distress, pneumonia, and a massive, massive surge in bronchitis cases, especially severe bronchitis.
So the emergency bed service, coordinating admissions.
Demand surged 50 to 100%. Mostly patients over 45. People with existing lung issues were incredibly vulnerable. Wards were jammed. Doctors were swamped.
And the ambulances trying to get these people to hospital.
Themselves crippled by the zero visibility. There's that horrific, iconic story of the ambulance near Marble Arch.
What happened?
They got lost. Stranded in the smog, couldn't move, couldn't see, couldn't call for help effectively.
And when they found it?
2 days later, the driver and both asthma patients he was carrying had died inside.
Oh my God.
The ambulance, meant to save lives, became a sealed tomb. A terrifying symbol of how the environment had turned lethal.
And compounding this, the medical advice at the time for asthma.
Tragically counterproductive. Patients having an asthma attack, especially at night, were often told, open a window, breathe the cool night air deeply. It'll ease your breathing.
But the cool night air was the poison.
Exactly. Under the inversion, the coldest, densest air near the ground was also the most polluted air, packed with that sulfuric acid aerosol. Opening the window was literally inviting the killer in. A death sentence in many cases.
Who first realized just how many people were dying?
Not the officials tracking stats initially, it was the undertakers. Across London, they started running out of coffins.
Running out of coffins.
And florists ran out of flowers. There was just this sudden, overwhelming surge in funerals that couldn't be delayed.
A grim indicator.
Incredibly grim. One mortician's assistant recalled trying to lead a funeral procession. He couldn't even see the curb next to his hearse. They crawled along, blind.
The initial official death figures started coming in.
Yes, the Ministry of Health reported a spectacular rise in deaths for the week ending December 13th. The total was 4,703.
4,703 in 1 week.
More than double the rate of the previous week. And deaths specifically from bronchitis. 10 times the normal average for that time of year.
And it wasn't just humans affected.
No, the toxicity was indiscriminate. At the Smithfield Agricultural Show, this famous livestock show,
What happened there?
prize cattle, these huge animals, started gasping for air, collapsing. They were asphyxiated by the smog right there in their pens.
A very visible sign of the air's potency.
Absolutely. And on a smaller scale, newspapers carried stories like the one about 9-year-old Brian Bone. His dog, Tarzan, ran into the garden.
And got lost.
Instantly lost in the smog, never came back. These non-human deaths were immediate, tangible proof of just how lethal the air had become.
So the win finally came. The immediate crisis ended. But the argument over the truth was just starting.
Exactly. On Tuesday afternoon, December 9th, a westerly wind picked up. It broke the inversion, swept that huge toxic cloud out over the North Sea.
The relief must have been immense.
Palpable. But the city was left coated.
Coated?
In this greasy, thick, black film. Soot and tar. On buildings, pavements, trees, everything. Visible, sticky evidence of what they'd just breathed.
The initial government estimate of deaths was already horrifying, 4,000 immediate deaths, more than any single Blitz incident in the war.
Shocking enough, yes. But then mortality rates stayed high, unusually high, for weeks, even months after the smog cleared. The government needed an explanation.
An explanation that didn't point back to the coal policy.
Precisely. This is where the politics of containment kicks in. The government's preliminary report blamed these lingering deaths, the ones in January, February, on a severe influenza epidemic.
The flu excuse. How did that help them politically?
Well, blaming the smog pointed to man-made causes. Policy, infrastructure, the coal. Blaming influenza makes it seem like a natural event, an uncontrollable virus.
So it limited their responsibility.
It allowed them to frame the disaster as just those 5 days, not a prolonged public health catastrophe caused by the air quality they were responsible for. It deflected accountability for the deaths that happened after the visible smog lifted.
But science eventually caught up?
Decades later, yes. Rigorous scientific reevaluation using statistical methods. Researchers looked at mortality records, hospital admissions, insurance claims over that whole winter.
And they compared the actual number of deaths to what would normally be expected.
Exactly. And their conclusion was definitive. Flu alone could not explain that massive, prolonged spike in deaths. The numbers just didn't add up.
So the true death toll?
The revised accepted figure is staggering. 12,000 people. 12,000 deaths attributable to the Great Smog event and its immediate aftermath.
3 times the initial estimate.
3 times. The disaster's reach was far longer and deeper than it acknowledged at the time.
And there were longer-term health impacts, too.
Yes, studies found lasting consequences. Increased rates of asthma, other chronic respiratory problems in people exposed as infants, or even in utero. The toxicity left a scar on the next generation.
Given this catastrophic toll, 12,000 deaths, what was the immediate political reaction once the smog cleared?
Inertia. Denial, basically. Harold Macmillan, the Minister of Housing and Local Government at the time, flat out refused requests for an official public inquiry.
Refused an inquiry. Why?
His stated reason was that fixing air pollution involved an enormous number of broad economic considerations.
The economic argument.
It always comes back to that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For the government then, post-war recovery, building houses that trump tackling air pollution, the delay was explicitly about economics over health.
But the public wasn't having it.
No, the official apathy was completely at odds with the growing public and media outrage.
Yeah.
You couldn't just call it fog anymore after that.
The scale of death changed everything.
It forced a permanent shift in consciousness. And even linguistically, the charming old fog, or pea-souper, got replaced by the sinister man-made word smog.
That linguistic shift is important.
Critical. It marked the event as preventable, a result of policy and priorities, not some unavoidable act of God.
And Churchill? He was prime minister. Popular history sometimes puts him at the center of the response.
Yeah, dramas sometimes depict that. But the historical record shows his focus was really elsewhere. Cold War, international affairs. The real engine for change wasn't top-down leadership initially.
It was public anger.
Sustained public anger that finally, eventually overcame that political inertia. This immense pressure demanded action.
Leading to actual legislation.
Eventually, yes. It bypassed the usual channels in some ways.
Right, connecting this to the bigger picture. That grassroots pressure was key. While the government dragged its feet, a conservative MP, Gerald Nabarro,
He took the initiative, yeah. Sponsored a private member's bill aimed squarely at domestic coal burning. That kind of high-profile move really forced the government's hand.
made it impossible to ignore.
Exactly. And that pressure led to the creation of the Committee on Air Pollution in July 1953, chaired by an engineer, Sir Hugh Beaver. Their job was to cut through the denial and find real solutions.
And the Beaver Committee's report?
Published in 1954, it was historic. No beating around the bush. It clearly identified burning, solid, high-sulfur fuel, home fires, and industry as the main culprit, and it called for radical change.
What kind of change?
Systemic change. Its recommendations became the bedrock of the Clean Air Act of 1956.
Which you said was a landmark piece of legislation.
Hugely important. one of the most significant environmental laws in British history, and it set a precedent globally for government intervention on air quality.
What did the act actually do?
It introduced some really revolutionary measures, especially impacting ordinary people's homes. Local authorities got the power to create smoke control areas.
Meaning?
In those zones, you could only burn approved smokeless fuels in your fireplace. No more dirty coal.
Big change for households.
Huge. It also banned emitting dark smoke from any chimney, industrial or domestic, and crucially, it provided government grants.
Grants for what?
To help homeowners pay for converting their old coal fireplaces to cleaner options, gas fires, electric heaters, or burning smokeless coke.
That's a massive government intervention into private life.
Absolutely monumental. The state basically said, we have a responsibility to regulate pollution for public health, even what you burn in your own home. It established that principle, overriding purely economic concerns for the first time on this scale.
Did it work? Did the Clean Air Act make a difference?
Yes. The transition took time, obviously, but it worked. The proof came a decade later.
How so?
In 1962, another severe temperature inversion hit London, another big smog event. But this time, the estimated death toll was around 750.
Still tragic, 750 deaths, but compared to 12,000.
Exactly. A tiny fraction of the 1952 disaster. It was definitive proof the regulations were working. Less sulfur going into the air meant less sulfuric acid forming during inversions.
And over the longer term.
As coal use declined dramatically in homes and industry, those infamous pea-soupers just faded away. They became history.
And the health benefits.
Clear and vital. If you look at the age-specific death rate for men in London from respiratory diseases linked to this kind of pollution, it fell by almost half in the decades that followed the act.
But the story doesn't end there, right? The fight for clean air isn't over.
Far from it. The villain just changed shape. The visible killer, the black coal smoke, is mostly gone, but it's been replaced by an invisible killer.
Which is?
Microscopic particulate matter, PM2.5 millimelts, and nitrogen oxides, not exhaust.
And where do they come from now?
Primarily, overwhelmingly, from road traffic in modern cities. Vehicle exhausts, brake dust, tire wear.
PM2.55, remind us how small that is.
Tiny. Less than 2.5 micrometers across. About 1/30th the width of a human hair.
And because it's so small.
It gets past your body's natural defenses, deep into your lungs, even into your bloodstream. And this invisible pollution still contributes to thousands of premature deaths in London every year.
Thousands, still.
Yes. So the legacy of 1956, of the Clean Air Act, is incredibly relevant today. Policies like London's ultra-low emission zone, the ULEZ.
They're direct descendants.
Absolutely. They operate on the exact same principle established back then. Government has a duty to protect the air we breathe, even if it means regulating economic activity like traffic.
So the central story of the Great Smog, it's about a failure of foresight, political will maybe being slow.
Redeemed only by massive public pressure leading to landmark laws. It's a permanent warning sign, really.
And the core lesson for us today.
That the deadliest threats are often the ones we get used to. The ones that become normalized are the ones we literally cannot see. The killer is still in the air, it's just changed its form.
Right, so the yellow-black smog is gone. But if you look at the data on PM2.95 and NOx today, what familiar part of our lives now, maybe our reliance on cars and deliveries, are we culturally accepting, like Londoners accepted coal smoke? Could that be the invisible killer for the next generation?
And what will it take this time to overcome those same broad economic considerations that delayed action back in 1952? They're the same arguments used today to slow down action on climate change and modern air pollution.
Definitely something to think about concerning the air quality right where you live. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
And so, another chapter closes. For more journeys into history's forgotten files, please like and subscribe. Your next story awaits.